Bem-vindo, Jack. Você já está aí online. Por favor, se apresenta e diz o que você tem a nos dizer aqui no Congresso.
I am the Zero Waste Cities Program Coordinator at Zero Waste Europe. I'm very thrilled and honoured to be invited to provide this presentation today. Obviously, it's a shame we cannot be there in person to connect and to meet, but hopefully you'll find content of this presentation useful, because I want to give a bit of a background around Zero Waste Europe and the Zero Waste Cities Program in Europe today. Some successful examples, the model, and then some of the key policies that we use. Members in 2028 for ambitious European Union legislation regarding waste and the circular, and to mentor cities towards. We require a commitment for municipalities, local authorities, we call them, not to commit to phasing. So this would obviously include landfill incineration, but newer sort of technologies around waste to energy incineration, plastic to fuels, gasification, pyrolysis, etc. All of these methods that particularly sort of create a lock-in effect for waste generation. So, for example, if you have a new incinerator build that may be sort of producing heat from the waste, this creates a lock-in effect. Continuously need waste, residual waste, to therefore create energy. And so there's no real incentive, therefore, to tackle waste reduction, because it's tied into the system. You have a 20, 30-year contract. And so all of our zero waste cities agreed to not to extend capacity or contracts. And so ultimately, through the reduction of waste, they're working towards the phasing out of the use of these technologies. So that's one key important distinction. Obviously, quickly just to highlight, zero waste, as we know, is much more decentralized compared to traditional waste management system. It gives communities greater say and greater power over the way that decisions are made. It's much more job creation focused. It provides much more labor opportunities in reuse and recycling sectors compared to quite expensive and capital intensive sort of technologies such as I mentioned, incineration in particular. Zero waste policies help to visualize and identify the waste that's left over, so you can really begin to create policies that are going to tackle the most problematic remaining non-recyclable items. And as I mentioned before, rather than locking in waste generation, we're actually using this data and this flexibility within the system. That's one of the most important things to highlight without the longer term contracts for waste treatment. Yes, let's focus a bit on the zero waste city communities. It's a continuous effort to phase out waste, obviously not through burning or landfilling, but by creating systems that do not generate waste in the first place. So this is what all of our zero waste cities agree to. And I think that first line is the most important bit, because whether a municipality is recycling 90% of its waste or 9%, there is still room for improvement. And so it's that demand for sort of making the system more efficient, that's the most important thing. And so whether it's that we work with some of the best performers in Europe, but also some very newcomers. And so it's whatever Mr. Help. And so we actually, the Zero Waste Cities program here in Europe, we have over 400 municipalities now in 9 countries who have committed and are engaged and supporting the development of zero waste strategies across Europe. And we do this via a network of local and national coordinators as part of our members. So we, Zero Waste Europe based in Brussels, will coordinate and harmonise the work across the continent, but it's our network of local experts who do the day-to-day work of municipalities. We also sort of model frontrunners, and to showcase best practices, we really think it's key to show that zero waste isn't this fanciful vision of the future. It's concrete policies, real solutions that are being implemented today that are cost effective, that they save they reduce budget sizes, save money, obviously better for the environment, but also human health, and of course help for us in the European Union. They provide a proven framework for achieving the EU's targets and regulations. And most recently, we've actually developed the world's first zero waste city certification, a much more robust framework for measuring and verifying zero waste cities across Europe. And it's really the sort of a to-do list for municipalities. It's, as I mentioned, a list of all the encompassing sort of aspects regarding municipal solid waste that local authorities can take. And this is just an example of some of our work. So as I mentioned in the top left, we capture best practices in case studies and have them publicly available. At the bottom here, you know, back in the time when we could do this, we used to run in-person workshops, study tours, so that people could really get to grips with zero waste. And we really believe that seeing is believing. So if you take people to the best practice locations to meet with those who are behind the implementation, they can really learn and understand what it takes, you know, the challenges, but also the benefits from this. And most recently, we have our first ever State of Zero Waste Municipalities report, where we capture the history, the latest data from our zero waste cities, and the best examples as well, all in one comprehensive document. And so I think it's just useful now to provide a bit of a basic sort of overview. Okay, what is the framework for a zero waste city, how we define it? At its foundation, at its core, is this curbside, so at the household collection of separate waste streams. We find that door-to-door separate collection is the most effective, where households are separating waste, you know, 4 or 5 key streams, so paper and cardboard, glass, metals, plastics, etc. And the most important one is organics. Of course, they have a huge impact for reducing waste, volume of it, of the residuals, the leftover, but also, of course, this can, if you're separately collecting organics effectively, not only are you reducing the emissions if you're landfilling, you're reducing the volume of waste, but also you can recycle compost that has several benefits. But you can also optimize the collection routes, so you save a lot of money there, because if the smellier, dirtier stuff is being addressed by more separate collection or home composting, community composting, it means that what's left is mostly packaging and therefore can sit in someone's household for a lot longer than food does. Municipalities will conduct residual waste assessments, so analysing what's left, what's non-recyclable, and this is key to sort of creating policies to continuously improve, to understand, okay, you know, we have separate collection of paper, but there's still 50% of what's left is paper, so how can we implement more educational programs or communicate that this can be recycled? You can also sort of use this data to feed back to the producers who continuously put non-recyclable materials onto the market. Another key part of the framework is pay-as-you-throw systems, or basically economic incentives for businesses and households to reduce their waste further. And so this is based on a fixed fee, waste fee of about 100% of the fee, maybe sort of between 50 to 70 or 80 ideally is fixed, and then the rest is variable, so that the people who generate the lowest amounts of waste pay the least. Therefore, you're incentivizing waste reduction even further. At the heart of it is an open and engaging partnership with local communities to really bring in citizens on board. And this can be done in various different ways. So there are like zero waste advisory boards, challenges with families, zero waste labels for businesses and schools as well. And then working up the waste hierarchy, like procurement, the services that they procure, but also how do you engage the wider ecosystem of stakeholders within a community to help establish packaging-free shops, reusable nappies, laundry and cleaning system, reuse and repair centres for electronics or bikes, bulky items, things like that. And of course, we all know the benefits this brings for many cities. If there's less waste to manage, there's less emissions, less health risk, less chemicals, but also reduced expenses and reduced fees for citizens. And the benefits that we see is that, you know, you can really help build thriving local communities done in more sustainable sectors, and of course, yeah, compliance and go above and beyond the EU regulations. So some examples from across Europe about how this has been put successfully into practice. I guess to begin with, let's go to Italy. This is a couple of snapshots from a waste management company, Contarina, one of our zero waste champions from the Treviso region in northeastern Italy. What you'll see from these two figures, on the left-hand side, they have the lowest sort of cost per household within the region. You're also coupling this with one of the cheapest systems in the region. Second, I want to move on to Slovenia. And we look back a decade or more now Slovenia was a real sort of laggard. It sat mid-table in terms of recycling and high landfilling. But yet, because of flexibility in the system, 10 years later, the adoption of zero waste strategies by many municipalities, and that Slovenia is now one of the best performing EU recycling countries. So it's gone from mid-table to, I think it's probably second best now, the latest figures. And what you'll see in this table here is a sort of overview of the zero waste cities within Slovenia in terms of the separate collection that they achieve, the targets that they've set. So separate collection would be the amount of municipal waste that is collected. Normally, when you're talking about recycling, on average, you reduce from separate collection by 10% to get the recycling rate due to discards or contamination, things like that. So, for example, in the Vinica of Nicia, you're looking at a recycling rate of about 70%, which is way above the EU average of 47%. But critically, you're combining this with high recycling, but also a low total waste generation. So some of these municipalities here in Goya, per person per year is 266 kilograms total waste generation. And that's sort of under 200 kilograms below the EU average as well. So we're really beginning to look at the circular economy as a whole. And this has been spearheaded by Ljubljana, the capital of Slovenia, Europe's first zero waste capital city. And you'll see here in these figures how, since the implementation of zero waste strategies and a door-to-door separate collection system, residual waste has really decreased over time as, of course, recycling and separate collection has increased as a result. And you'll see the importance that really effective bio-waste collection and management has here in terms of reducing the impact on zero waste, reducing the impact on the local environment. The latest one that we actually wanted to include is this example from Germany. We have our first zero waste city in Germany, the city of Kiel. And it's critically important. I wanted to include here because Germany for a long time has been a champion of incineration. It's high recycling, but also high waste, total waste generation. So a lot of it is being burnt. And it's therefore really important because the tide is turning against incineration in Europe. It's increasingly recognized unsustainable for the climate due to the sort of the emissions that's put out by the process, the lack of efficiency within energy systems of incineration as well, and also the benefits of zero waste strategies in terms of communities. And I think it really shows the diversity. We have zero waste cities in Europe now, in places like Germany, but also rural Romania, in Ukraine, in the UK, Spain, Italy, Croatia, Bulgaria, and Slovenia. So it shows zero waste isn't just only works in one context, it can work in a wide variety of contexts. We provide a framework to really, for local communities and local experts to tailor and design themselves. Because that's the most important thing, is that it's embedded in local data and driven by local communities. And that would be one of the key messages that I'd like to leave you all with today, is that I sort of have run out of time, unfortunately, but some of these key policies here, the collection of organics, commitment to phase out incineration, continuously assessing residual waste, embedding waste prevention, doing what a municipality can. Sometimes we see that municipalities say waste prevention, it's not us, it's the national government or its businesses. But in a lot of ways, local authorities can really showcase leadership through sort of local laws that ban single-use plastics within public events or spaces, extra charges on these kind of items, things like this. And also, very, very finally, we always say to municipalities, be proud, be happy, excited, being a zero waste champion. There is something joyous in this challenge of creating systems that are sustainable, better for the environment, but also better for on.
Então